morning, or if you're in Singapore or India, good evening. My name is Vicky Denton. I'm the co-founding director of the Asian Lubricant Manufacturers Union. Welcome to our first ALMU webinar on sustainability of lubricants. Today, we have 3 speakers, and we have our panelist, Dr. TCSM Gupta, who will be moderating our webinar today. Without much ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Gupta, who in turn will introduce our first speaker, Steve Puckett. Dr. Gupta is the Senior Vice President for Quality, R&D, and Technical of Apar Industries Limited, based in Mumbai, India. Dr. Gupta is currently the Vice Chairman of ALMU, and he also serves as Chairman of ALMU's Technology and Information Subcommittee. Dr. Gupta has a PhD in refining chemistry from the Indian Institute of Petroleum in Dehradun, India. And altogether, he has 25 years of experience in the industry and is heavily involved in many Bureau of Indian Standards, SIGRI, and IEC committees, either as member or working group leader, and has a lot of academic research collaborations. I'd like to welcome Dr. Gupta and turn over the microphone to him. Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Vicky, for the nice introduction. We welcome you all for the first Sustainability of Lubricants webinar of ALMU, and this is also 7th webinar in series of ALMU webinars. Today, I would like to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Steve Puckett, who is the co-founding director of ALMU, and he is also executive chairman of Trizen. Steve has about 40 years of experience in energy business, which includes 30 years of international career with ExxonMobil. Of these 40 years, he has spent 30 golden years, which are based in Asia. Steve is also former president of British Chamber of Commerce, and he is also former chairman and fellow of the Institution of Chemical Engineers. Steve has been very active in the energy sector in Asia and the global scenario. Now I would like to request Steve to guide us about the ALMU sustainability policy and efforts. Over to you, Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Dr. Gupta. It's a pleasure to join such an accomplished panel of speakers, and I'd like to add my welcome to all our attendees. As something of an introduction, the ALMU has become the principal voice of the Asian lubricant industry. It unites the industry around the current unprecedented challenges it faces, such as more complex regulation, advances in manufacturing requirements, and maintaining quality alongside expected speed to market, overcoming threats which are typical in Asia, such as counterfeiting, and of course today's increasing requisite of managing sustainable operations. Okay, the association was founded in 2017 and launched in early 2018. It mirrors our affiliated downstream business organizations, both in Europe and America, and now has over 100 member companies across Asia, and is becoming the leading voice of the industry here. So sustainability, let me say this absolutely loud and clear. Sustainability will be high on our agenda this coming year, and we believe it will remain so, and becoming an increasingly critical component of doing business. The association itself is here to provide guidance and leadership to our members and promote an awareness of critical sustainability concerns, while also aiming to provide an example to the lubricants industry as a whole here in the region. Having a committed position on sustainability is becoming increasingly necessary when dealing with the international majors and indeed the national oil companies here, and it will soon become an essential requirement when contracting to do most business for most all major companies. The yet young organization, the ALMU, is forging ahead and has published its sustainability statement, which I believe is a first for an industry association, and which I'll now overview briefly and is available on our ALMU website. So the ALMU is committed to environmental, social, and community stewardships. So our core values, the slide you can see at the moment: conservation of the environment, ensuring the use of natural resources is in a manner that minimizes any adverse impact on the environment, offering full support to local and global efforts in shaping an energy future that meets the goals of the United Nations climate initiatives. And then, as I move on, focusing on leadership. While the association seeks to influence the development of high-quality lubricants, it aims to provide leadership to its members for them to operate with an awareness of critical environmental concerns. These concerns include reducing the use of resources, minimizing waste, managing supply chains to minimize environmental impact, minimizing the environmental footprint of operations, maintaining good governance to achieve these aims. Next, we focus on standards. We focus the members on the urgency of energy, water, and other resources, and increasing recycling efforts and whatever. So focusing on standards, the ALMU believes that long-term conservation of the environment always needs businesses to operate with integrity and ethically. The association strives for members to act with full transparency, communicating regularly with all stakeholders on issues concerning the impact of our operations on the environment, the use of resources, and initiatives affecting the well-being of local communities and the members' level of performance in these areas. The association plans to focus members on the need to report regularly and in a balanced manner and with fair disclosure. We will provide the opportunity for stakeholders to participate in our sustainability programs. Then there we go. Support of the local community and social programs. We believe that members' corporate long-term development should be aligned with helping local communities on social, economic, and environmental concerns, offer communities resources and innovation, ensure the industry contributes to the well-being and enhancement and the long-term growth of the communities it operates in. Finally, in support of regulated sectors, we will support the collaboration between members and with industry partners, government institutions, affiliated agencies, and the public on matters such as education, training, research, to achieve their own sustainability aspirations. So just in conclusion, sustainability is high on our agenda this year. We believe it will remain so and become an increasingly critical component in doing business. Sustainability will be the focus of our annual meeting next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for leading us through what and how we are going to practice sustainability at ALMU. And as a practitioner of energy for so many decades, you have seen the way the sustainability is practiced in most of the energy sector, and lubricants being part of the oil and gas sector have many things that we have to learn from the energy sector for sure, especially under responsible consumption of raw materials is the key goal that is being practiced in the oil and gas industry. Now I would like to introduce the second speaker of the webinar, Mr. Mark Miller. For those who have been using those biodegradable and sustainable base stocks in the industry, they don't need Mark's introduction. For the benefit of ALMU members, I would like to introduce Mark. Mark is a serial entrepreneur with a lot of emphasis on bio and sustainable technologies. He has been practicing biodegradability and sustainability for many years. He has engineered, sold, and marketed environmentally accepted lubricants and base oils for more than 30 years, where even the sustainability word has been is not been really even understood by many. Currently, he is the CEO of Biosynthetic Technologies. He was former CEO and co-founder of Tersol Technologies. Mark has a BS in chemical engineering from Tufts University and MBA from Manhattan College. Over to you, Mark, to lead us and to understand about these lubricants and bio-based base oils. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for that nice introduction. And thank you to the ALMU. We are honored to be participating in the first sustainability conference. We support the efforts that ALMU is doing, and we're really honored to be a part of that. I've been, as Dr. Gupta said, in the environmentally sustainable lubricant space for a long, long time. And in fact, when I first entered that marketplace, green was still considered a color. Now I'm with Biosynthetic Technologies, and we are continuing to deliver innovative solutions for a sustainable future. And our vision is to be a global premier supplier of base fluids across a variety of markets. What we do is we convert vegetable oils into high-performant synthetic base oil products. In this case, we're starting with an oleic acid or a vegetable oil, converting it into its fatty acid, creating an estolide-free fatty acid, and then making a estolide ester. What we like about the estolide is it's sustainable, it's renewable, it's environmentally safe, but what it does is it improves some of the performances of conventional sustainable fluids. We see that as a platform across a wide range of industries, but we are primarily focused on the lubricant space. So let's talk a little bit about the sustainability of base oils. When we first started getting into this industry, when I got into this industry, the sustainability goals were, it had to be renewable, coming from a bio content, and it had to be safe for the environment. It had to be biodegradable, had to be low in toxicity, and low in bioaccumulation. As the industry evolved, people needed them to perform and work as well as petroleum-based products. They needed to be cost-effective, so they had to have comparable price points. And today, the industry has exploded with its sustainability requirements, looking at carbon footprint, life cycle assessment, the social impact, and also the economical impact. And where all those converge is what we consider sustainable lubricant or sustainable operations. The industry is changing very rapidly, and it's still unclear. We're still unclear on what the definition is. People are using all different types of definitions, some of the majors are actually trying to misrepresent the environmental characteristics of their fluid, but that's a topic for another day. We support the ALMU's conservation motives, and we look at protecting the environment as sort of the overall overarching requirement, but we're looking on renewability, economic sustainability, and social sustainability, energy efficiency, environmental fate, what happens when it gets into the environment, small carbon footprint, and bio-derived. So first, looking at environmental fate, what happens when a lubricant or specialty product gets into the environment? Will it biodegrade? What is its toxic effect? And how is it bioaccumulative? First, look at biodegradation. It's a little bit confusing because there's a couple of different definitions and some of the terminology is actually redundant. There are two types of testing for biodegradation with a number of different industry tests. The first is primary degradation, which measures the decrease of the lubricant or substrate in the test methodology. And the other is ultimate biodegradation, which is measuring carbon dioxide and water in the effluent as the product biodegrades. You can see that per the ASTM standard, the benchmark for ultimate biodegradability is greater than 60% within 28 days. The ASTM also identifies a slower degrading material, which will degrade over 60% in 84 days. And then it decreases from there by a variety of different methodologies. So the general definition, and what makes this confusing, looking at point number 2, is ultimately biodegradable means that it'll, is a definition that means it'll biodegrade by 60% in 28 days. Now, if that degradation occurs in a 10-day window, once biodegradation has occurred, that's considered readily biodegradable. And looking further down the list, number 3, inherently biodegradable is somewhere between 20% and 60% in 28 days, and then non-biodegradable is 20% in less than 20% in 28 days. Also, in terms of environmental fate, is ecotoxicity as measured by a variety of different standards. And typically what it is looking at the amount of dosage or concentration that will kill 50% of a species population. Most industry standards to be considered no observable effect concentration would be greater than 100 milligrams per milliliter or 100 parts per million to be considered not toxic. Other ecological testing is bioaccumulation. The United States EPA enacted almost a decade ago the Vessel General Permit, and they were the ones that made bioaccumulation sort of a household word. But that's the ability for lower species to be consumed by higher species and have the product that grow in the body. And then there's renewable content, which is becoming a bigger and bigger issue with regard to what is its bio content, and that's measuring new hydrocarbon from old hydrocarbon. In the United States, the US Department of Agriculture has a bio preferred program that has affirmative purchasing for bio-containing products. Looking at the traditional sustainable types of base oils, we have oleoderives, which would be a vegetable oil or triglyceride based. We have saturated synthetic esters, which are also naturally derived. Our products, which are now novel secondary esters called estolides. Also from the chemical or petroleum derived, there are polyalkylene glycols, and even some polyalpha olefins, hydrocarbon derived, can be biodegradable and have become a large and growing sector in the sustainable base oil section. So our vision on sustainability is how to do that. How do we look at sustainability, and how are we trying to help our customers look at sustainability? We believe in circular sustainability. So we're looking at sustainable agriculture, sustainable economically, and your carbon footprint. And we analyze that by evaluating the raw materials, the manufacturing impact, and the material handling and manufacturing process. So using castor oil as one of our feedstocks, we believe that we're utilizing arid farmlands, so we're not competing with food. We're creating jobs for lower economic rungs because it's non-agricultural type materials or land. And then the crops can be harvested many times, which allows for high utilization of a small space. Our manufacturing facility is right in the heartlands of the growing areas. So crushing, processing, and shipping are very, very close. So we're not having to use transportation, large amounts of transportation, and utilizing CO2 there. Our manufacturing facility is 100% renewable energy with electricity supplied by a local wind farm, and the boilers are fueled by utilizing spent castor cake from crushing. As a result, our materials are carbon negative, with 9 tons of CO2 absorbed from each metric ton of our material. So how did we calculate that? We did the best we could, right? There's a lot of different definitions on life cycle assessment. So what we tried to do is look at the various feedstocks and manufacturing considerations. We've done LCAs on both the high-oleic soy oils, which we utilize in our passenger car base oils, and also the castor-derived materials, which we use in more of our industrial and personal care products. We tried to utilize the ISO 14040 methodology, but we really focused on 10 key areas for sustainability: global warming, acidification, fossil fuel, habitat, air pollutants, human health, smog, ecotox, water intake, and air quality. And what we tried to do was we broke it into 4 steps of production, with the first being castor bean agriculture. How is it being grown? What are the inputs and outputs of that? The crushing and oil production to make castor oil, the conversion from the oil to the ricinoleic acid, and then the conversion of the ricinoleic acid to the estolides. And you can see that it is very low usage in water. In the manufacturing and all the way through to the oil transportation, there's absolutely no electricity being utilized, or it's all been sustainable. You can see that the total dissolved solids are minimal, and as you look at the CO2, it ends up with a carbon negative footprint. The products are also approved for toxicity, food grade capabilities, and safety across North America and Europe. So a couple of things to look at for a sustainable base oil, lubricant base stock, right? Number 1 is sustainable sourced, 2 is biodegradability. Look at the ecotoxicity, the propensity for bioaccumulation, but also you need to look at how is the oxidative stability? Is it suit for purpose? How about the hydrolytic stability? Is it suit for purpose? Can it offer the requirements in terms of wear and extreme protection? Is it compatible with hoses, seals, elastomers, and several others? So with that, I will say thank you very much for your time and attention. Please stay connected with us via the social medias, visit our website, and I look forward to continued discussions and listening to the rest of this seminar.
Thank you, Mark, for the excellent coverage of the subject, both from the point of base stocks to the lubricants, and what are the aspects that one has to really look into. What does it really mean by inherent biodegradability, how one should measure the biodegradability, and also along with various performance aspects of these esters, whether it is hydrolytic stability, whether it is extreme pressure properties. It is fantastic because you have covered the entire supply chain activity of biodegradability and the bio-preferred program and EAL aspects of the products. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite the third speaker of the webinar, Ms. Elizabeth Grove from Lubrizol Corporation. For most of the people in the webinar, Lubrizol as a company is very well known, not only in the lubricants, but in various other business lines. Lubrizol has been in the forefront of most of the specialty chemicals. To introduce Ms. Elizabeth Grove, Elizabeth is Chief Sustainability Officer of Lubrizol Corporation. And prior to this, she is also was the President of Lubrizol Foundation. And she has been former Global Director of Sustainability and Compliance in Lubrizol Life Sciences, former Chief Litigation Counsel of Lubrizol Corporation, former Litigation Attorney, Bureau of Consumer Protection, US Federal Trade Commission, former litigation attorney John's day. She has seen the entire legal and sustainability aspects of the products, in toto. Over to you, Grove. Over to Ms. Grove. Yeah, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for that very nice introduction. And thank you to Vicki and Steve for inviting Lubrizol to participate. And finally, congratulations to Mark. That was a great presentation, and all of your progress at Biosynthetic Technologies. It's very inspiring to see what can be done from the standpoint of particular products. But what I'd like to talk to you all about today is, as a large organization, how can you approach sustainability at a slightly higher level? Doing it on a product by product basis the way Steve had is very important. But how do you organize yourself for sustainability? And I'm going to share my screen. And if I could just get an indication from someone at ALMU, whether or not you're able to see my screen.
Yes, Beth, it's perfect.
Thanks, Vicki. And again, I do want to thank ALMU for inviting Lubrizol to participate. We're really honored for the opportunity to talk to you. As a young organization, ALMU is doing some really exciting things. And as Chief Sustainability Officer, I'm very inspired by your dedication and commitment to sustainability. Steve's right. Sustainability is becoming very important to all of us in this industry, not only from an ethical and environmental stewardship standpoint, but also from a commercial standpoint. It's becoming part of what is required of us in the industry in order to be able to compete and to achieve our commercial goals. But I think that ALMU and your statement on sustainability really positions you beautifully. And I'd like to talk about some of the themes that you have running through your statement on sustainability and how all of us can weave those into our organizations. But as the trusted voice of the industry, what you say in the agenda that ALMU sets will be very important for how sustainability takes off and is positioned for the future. In addition, your commitment to sustainability, particularly around setting high standards and high standards for your products, will begin to drive the sustainability of the industry as well. So kudos to you for that. And then finally, in terms of creating value for your members, the information that they get here about sustainability will do exactly that, because as we said, this is becoming an important commercial as well as environmental requirement. So as a member of ALMU, I think you'll gain a lot from all of what ALMU has to offer on sustainability. There's a lot to learn. So let's talk for a second about how we're approaching sustainability as an organization at Lubrizol. And I'm not going to go into specific products quite in the excellent detail that Mark did, but more in terms of how do you think about sustainability and position your organization. It is a fairly new proposition at Lubrizol. We've really only been doing this about as long as ALMU has been in existence, but we've moved forward quickly and we've learned a lot of great lessons, and I'd like to share some of those with you today in terms of how to position ourselves for sustainability in the future. One of the things I'm most proud of is the fact that at Lubrizol, despite our short sustainability journey to this point, we have woven sustainability into our corporate goals. And that is largely due in part to our leadership. Our CEO and our executive council have embraced sustainability as a business strategy. It's not just something that we do on the side. It's not just something that we do to feel good. It's part of who we are, and it's part of our corporate goals. And so we've stated our corporate goals and our mission at Lubrizol as helping the world to move cleaner, and that is enabling a 50% reduction in vehicle emissions by 2024. We're helping the world create smarter by improving the circularity of our products by 2028. And when I say improve the circularity, what I mean is that we will start to look for and design our products for more circular applications by a factor of 25% by 2028. And that date is special to us because that's our 100th anniversary. And then finally, to help the world live better, to improve the lives of at least 2 billion people by 2028 through products that we make having to do with personal care, medical applications, and pharmaceuticals. And we feel strongly that we can achieve all of these goals, but sustainability is at the heart of it. So let's talk a little bit about how we think about sustainability at Lubrizol and how we will achieve these goals. One of the most important things I think for this session in particular is to recognize the importance of high quality standards and high quality lubricants as sustainability enablers. If you are sort of a wonky sustainability person like I am, and you follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, one of the things that you'll immediately recognize is how important quality lubricants can be to UN SDG 12, which encourages us to set goals around responsible consumption and production. Lubricants are uniquely positioned in order to help organizations to achieve goals under this UN SDG because they do so many important things. First of all, they optimize use, right? They prevent wear, tear, and early obsolescence. They also, as a result, reduce scrap, replacement, delay. They reduce the amount of mechanical parts that are going to landfills. They keep things working longer, and that is very important from a sustainability standpoint. In addition, they increase the efficiency of the operation of those applications and those mechanical parts. And if they're very efficient, they also reduce the need for using more energy, water, generating waste. Lubricants can actually maximize the efficiency of any kind of a mechanical or operational tool that it's used in, and reduce our use of these precious resources. And more importantly, and as you'll hear about in a second, quality lubricants can actually enable more efficient use of downstream products. We can enable what our customers are doing with our products in the life cycle of the product. At Lubrizol, we think about our opportunity to change in sort of two large buckets, if you will. The first is to shrink our corporate footprint. That is, the footprint is our impact in our operations, the raw materials that we buy, the impact of our manufacturing, the impact of our transport, and then also thinking about expanding our handprint. And that's a little bit different than the way a lot of companies talk about sustainability. We're looking downstream. We are a B2B organization. And so we are looking downstream to see how we can design into our ingredients and our lubricants the ability for our customers to reduce their footprint by using our ingredients. And that is our handprint, our ability to help others to achieve their goals. So Lubrizol's corporate footprint, as I said, consists largely of the raw materials that we buy that come in the door, our manufacturing and our transport. We have quantified our footprint. We're approximately 5 million metric tons a year of CO2 equivalent. The vast majority of that comes from our raw materials that come in the door. Believe it or not, as a specialty chemical company with 60 manufacturing sites all over the world, you would think that that our footprint comes largely from our manufacturing, but it doesn't. It comes from the raw materials that come in the door. We are a material supplier to our customers, which means we contribute to that same flow of their carbon footprint when they bring our products in the door as their raw materials. And that means we have the ability to help our customers reduce their footprint if we can reduce the footprint of our products. One of the ways to look at this is that if you know a little bit about carbon footprint, one of the important parts of your carbon footprint is your scope 3 emissions and what comes in your door. We are our customers' scope 3. And so we are cognizant of that, and we are thinking about how can we reduce our footprint to help them reduce their scope 3 emissions as well. But we know that there are other ways that we can be helpful to our customers, and I want to talk about those as well. Another way that our handprint has a positive impact on our customers, or at least we hope that it does, is our ability to innovate our products and design our products to enable our customers or even consumers further on down the line to reduce their impact as well. And I'll talk about 4 specific examples of how we do that today. This is all about how we are thinking longer term about our products and the impact that they can have on others, not just about our footprint and how we can reduce our footprint. We'll talk a little bit about some lubricant technology that we have today that enables lower global warming potential operations and applications. We'll talk about some of the technology that we've designed for heavy-duty truck efficiencies. We manufacture polymers that are used in lots of different applications: home care, personal care, medical care. We've designed some of those to reduce impact as well. And then finally, some of our engine oil technology that enables engines to run cleaner. The first area where we have sort of designed for sustainability is an enabler. We have refrigerant lubricants that are allowing and enabling the use of some of the more complex and sophisticated applications that are sometimes difficult to keep in use, but while they're in use, they are reducing emissions, and they're reducing the global warming potential of refrigeration, HVAC, and cooling applications, which, as you know, can be very troublesome from a GHG standpoint. And so our ability to enable our customers to keep their products in play longer is enabling the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. We've also identified and designed some of our engine oil and engine oil additives for heavy-duty applications to reduce the kinds of emissions that you would get from the use of these heavy-duty diesel trucks. Our trucks are able to, with our applications, they're able to run more efficiently between oil changes, and this means less oil across the truck's life cycle and cleaner emissions. And we've quantified this to represent a reduction, at least in the US, of about 10 million metric tons of CO2 out of the environment every year. This isn't a lubricant product, but I thought it was a great example because I'm pretty sure everybody on this call has had to do their laundry or their children's laundry, as is my case. And being able to enable more efficient laundry production is one of the things that our home care team has been able to do with certain kinds of polymers that we've manufactured. They can reduce the water and energy consumption of our customers who are making things like Tide and Gain and other kinds of laundry detergents during the manufacturing of the detergent. And not only that, you can use these with cold water and so throughout the life chain of the product, we're able to reduce the impact of the activity of doing laundry. And just in the manufacturing by our customers, we've been able to quantify with 5 different studies that we've done at 5 different customers, the average of 1.1 million gallons of water was saved a year in customer manufacturing, and a 10% reduction in energy needed to manufacture laundry detergent using our polymers. And then finally, we've been able to design our engine oil technology to enable diesel engines to run cleaner. We're able to reduce emissions, increase fluid life, and extend the miles per gallon. We've quantified that reduction globally to be about 12 million metric tons of CO2 that we've been able to take out of the environment every year. And so as you can see, you can have an impact on sustainability extends sort of beyond just reducing your own footprint. If you think about your products and the life cycle of your products and where you can have impact, you can see that the lubricants industry in particular is very well suited to enable more reduced emissions, longer life, and more efficient operation of all kinds of applications over time. And I think that is a very exciting proposition for the lubricants industry. And I commend you on all of the ambitions that you're setting in your statement on sustainability. And I would recommend to any members that you stick closely with this organization because a lot of great work is being done here. And there's a lot of great potential for the future. And with that, I will turn it back.
Thank you, Beth. Dr. Gupta?
Thank you, Beth, for the excellent presentation on the sustainability efforts by Lubrizol and the end results for the customers to see on various products. It was indeed excellent to look at some of the examples of products what we are using on a daily basis. It was excellent. Yeah. Vicky, shall I summarize from the first speaker?
So there are 3 questions posted here on the question bar. Maybe I can read that, and then
Yeah.
you can walk through our speakers on this. The first question is, can you guide us through the UNDP goals on sustainability? Now, this is a general question, and I assume this is a question for Steve, because he did refer this in one of his slides.
Well, the
Yes.
sustainability goals that have been referred to are the key to a lot of a kind of anchor for sustainability. They're the blueprint to achieve better sustainability and a sustainable future for all, and address all the global challenges we face. They're really big picture. They include those related to poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. The goals, there are 17 in total, and they're all interconnected, and they're all there positioned so that no one is left behind. The UN believes it's important that we achieve these goals by 2030. It's ambitious, but especially when you're talking about poverty and inequality and climate change. But it's a target, and it's a very, very worthwhile location to go to. So if you go to the website, you can learn more about each issue. And that is, I don't know whether I can share this, but I'll certainly say it. It's very simple, www.un.org, and then /sustainable development. And that gives a picture of each of the 17 sustainability goals, and it gives you a really rounded position, I think, on where those who are concerned about sustainability think we should be moving. So that's what I've got to say. Maybe somebody else wants to contribute.
Well,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind, if I could add, that's a great summary, Steve. One thing that I would recommend, I strongly encourage you to go to the UN site on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. An interesting fact about those goals is that they were initially intended for governments. And they came out with them in 2015, 17 different goals for governments. And what people found, or organizations found, was that it was a great way to kind of think about sustainability in what I like to call bite-sized chunks. And they found that businesses were starting, and corporations were starting to look at the UN SDGs as a way to kind of take apart and figure out what mattered in terms of priorities. So in 2017, the UN SDG committee came out with a great product. It's called the Blueprint for Business. Yes. Under the UN SDGs, and it has all kinds of information where you can figure out which SDG applies to your business or what you're doing. It's also got examples of how organizations have set their own goals, specific business goals around the UN SDGs. I would strongly recommend that to anybody who's interested in setting goals around that from a corporate standpoint.
Yeah, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Steve, for the excellent explanation of the UN Sustainability Development Goals. And the goal number 12, that is responsible use of raw materials, is the major target for oil and gas industry. And most of the oil and lubricant industry companies are working towards reducing the carbon footprint, doing the, that's how this today's webinar, whether it is base stocks or the additives which are very relevant for increasing or for minimizing the carbon footprint. And today, in fact, the last 3 days, the European Sustainable Development Goals, this conference is going on everywhere. Even if you see, most of the companies are having a separate report on the sustainability aspects. All the major companies are having, even in the annual financial statements, people are really going to, present this data in a more realistic manner. Yeah, and this question is, I think, to Beth. It is like, how many customers are asking for Lubrizol to move to more sustainable products and are quantify the sustainability characteristics of the products?
Many, Kurt, many. What's interesting about Lubrizol is that we have a varied portfolio, and we really started to see this happening, first of all, in our personal care business. Personal care seems to have moved quickly. I see Mark nodding. Personal care seems to have been an early adopter of sustainability, particularly in Europe and the US. And I think that's largely because it's unregulated for the most part. The personal care industry kind of decided what was going to be the commercial differentiator, and they decided on sustainability. Bio-based becoming very important as part of that. That has now moved further and further into our other businesses, including paints and coatings, plastics, and now, of course, our additives and industrial lubricants business. So we have many customers asking for this. And Kirk, I think the reason why is a lot of our customers are publicly held, and they're getting a lot of pressure from their shareholders to come up with KPIs around various sustainability indicators and metrics. And so we, as I mentioned, we are part of their scope 3. And so they're coming up the supply chain to us to say, we want to reduce our scope 3 emissions, Lubrizol. We need you to reduce your scope 3, your footprint in order to enable us to do that. So many, and we're seeing more and more from the industrial and the transportation industry in the last year. It's not quite at the level of the personal care team, but it's pretty close. And we're getting specific goals. They're asking us, we would like you to reduce by X amount by X year.
Yes.
Okay, I think this question, Dr. Gupta, is a little bit related to that other question that Beth just answered. And I think this next question can be answered by both Mark and Beth.
Yes.
Transparency and reporting was stated as being key parts of sustainability. Do you think this is at odds with the need to protect proprietary information? Maybe Mark first and then Beth?
Yeah, that seems to be with a lot of our customers. They want us to be transparent with what we're doing and how we actually do our life cycle assessment and carbon footprint. And I do not find that in any way in conflict with our proprietary information. In fact, we reach out with that, and a lot of times we'll talk about the features and benefits of our products and then sort of throw out the negative carbon footprint, and people suddenly wake up and say, well, how did you derive, and in fact, Lubrizol is one of them. How did you derive those numbers? And then we open up and share how we're doing it. And I think at this stage in everybody's reach to be more sustainable, we can all learn from each other. We're all trying to achieve the same goal, and we can share back and forth.
I agree with Mark, and I think that there are ways that you can provide the necessary information and still, preserve your proprietary information as well.
Yes, I would like to add what Beth and Mark mentioned. In fact, in the current scenario of sustainable raw materials and all, the transparency is much more than conventional products, because people provide all the information, the type of esters, the type of raw materials, and then the whole biodegradability aspects, everything more clearly than it was in much in the earlier scenario. In fact, the customer has a variety of information he can completely choose, and before he begins any project, he is completely clear what and where he's stepping into. Am I right, Beth?
I think so. I mean, as I said, I think there are certainly ways that you can preserve that proprietary information and provide the information that's needed by the customer. But you're quite right that the need for transparency is much different now than it was even 3 years ago.
So, Dr. Gupta, would you like to ask the next question?
Yeah. Do you think conducting carbon footprint survey in Asia is feasible, looking at the complexity of the region, standards, and the specifications of the product? Used that too in the lubricant industry. This is based to both the speakers, both Beth and Mark, because you have been seeing the global scenario as well as Asian context also, as a supplier of either raw materials or additives. Yeah, I request Mark to answer, and then Beth.
Sure. I wouldn't want to have my carbon footprint a specification for my product, but I'm very forward with sharing not only what our carbon footprint looks like, but how we came up with those numbers. I think from our perspective, It's an iterative process. We're trying to reduce our carbon footprint every way we possibly can. We're trying to be more sustainable every way we possibly can. And so long as that is forefront in our objectives and we can quantify that as best as we can, I think that's certainly the way we'll be moving forward.
I would say as a global organization, obviously Asia is a very important market. As we start to reduce the carbon footprint of our products, that will affect all products. And so if one region is moving faster than another in requiring us to do that, that will benefit everybody, because I don't think we'll be doing this region by region. This will be a global corporate initiative.
Yes, that's very true. In fact, to add on to this, the very definition of sustainability by the users has completely changed. Earlier, people, they used to think biodegradability is only one aspect, but when you talk about sustainability, the product has to perform for the intended application. So with the improved modified products that are available, as mentioned in the Mark's presentation as well as in Beth's presentation about the products which are very high performance type and yet sustainable and are biodegradable, are ultimately biodegradable. It is possible to design the product meeting both the performance aspect as well as biodegradability. That's why the sustainability, I think, is really catching up.
You know, if you just look at the European Eco Label as an example for raising the bar on sustainability and environmental preferability, it not only lists in terms of the lubricant space additives and base oils and finished lubricants. It has, what the biodegradability requirements are, what the toxicity requirements are, what the bioaccumulation products are. It has, in some claims, it has, in order to claim bio-based, it needs a minimum bio-based content. But that's a very, very high bar, and we're seeing more demand for eco-label type materials.
And
yes.
one thing I've challenged our team to do is to start to expand our definition internally of performance to go beyond, to include how does it perform in the environment, right? So it's important. The most important thing that we've done a lot of research around, particularly in the beauty space, around consumers and efficacy, and are they willing to pay more for sustainable products? The answer is no, they're not. But they want it. And so the most important thing at the end of the day is that this product works. Now, what's great about our lubricants is that if our lubricants work the way they're intended to, they have an immediate positive impact on the environment. So that's a great thing. But if we can also add to the concept of performance, how does it perform in the environment? It helps you to view your products in a slightly different way. And that's what I've been encouraging our technical teams to do, to think about a slightly broader definition of what constitutes performance.
Yes,
that's absolutely right. And just to amplify on that, in terms of lubrication, extending oil change intervals, reducing wear, improving fuel economy or energy efficiency are all very quantifiable aspects of it that can be attributed to the overall sustainability of the products.
Yes, in fact, I think as you rightly said, Mark, in some of this North American and European domain, already these things are very well defined, like corporate average fuel economy, extended life, service life of the oil, and these things are really catching up. For example, today, I think Beth will agree that, you talk about those high advanced lubricants, people in Asia also talking about those, CJ4, CK4, quite frequently. That is very much, and if you really see, as she rightly mentioned about the cosmetic industry, recently one of the global major company is top sustainable authority has mentioned, more than the chemicals, the sustainability, the amount of packaging they use in cosmetic industry, sustainability is a major issue there on the packaging rather than the product. So
exactly,
yeah, I think you must have seen that. I don't want to name the company, but they openly agreed that per gram of product.
All of them are challenged. All of them are challenged right now around packaging. We don't participate in the packaging piece of it. We are what's in the bottle, but we see our customers looking for options. And the reality is that's how consumers identify sustainability. Actually, it has as much to do with the packaging as anything else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there is one more question, very interesting. I think basically this must be based on the ALMU statement of sustainability or to all the presenters. This question says, how do we study the contribution of lubricant industry in each economy in Asia? Because basically this question is maybe based on each country in Asia is a very complex and variety of standards and specifications. So I think this question is an open question for the ALMU, and this open question for all of us. How do we measure and where do we go from here? I mean, I would say any of your speakers, you can speak on this, make some.
Well, I think it's work in progress. We're working with potential sponsors,
Yes,
government agencies. Obviously, it's a big piece of work, but we're also working with national oil companies. There's a lot of work being done in China, for instance. You might be surprised. What we're really trying to do is pull it together. We've got working subcommittees. We've got people looking for sponsorships, major studies, significant amount of money. Lubricants, as the conference is really about, has really something quite substantial to contribute to sustainability, not necessarily just for themselves, but for our clients and consumers. And across Asia, yeah, you're quite right, Dr. Gupta. It's not like a united Europe. It's even less like a United States.
Yes.
They're all different cultures, all different standards, all different levels of activities and approach, all different in terms of very wide differences in terms of GDP per capita and types of vehicles. So it's really quite a challenge. And we've got a study that we hope to get underway by next year. And like a lot of the more general questions that could be asked about how we're going to achieve these sustainability objectives, a lot of it is work in progress. We've got a whole team of working groups, different working groups working on these things. I hope I put that into context.
Yes, very true, Steve. Yes, very true. Yes, Mark, you would like to comment on this?
Yeah, I think that we're very focused on Asia. We see it as raising the sustainability bar. As you mentioned, Dr. Gupta, it's very fractured or very independent by region. But Asia is of utmost importance for us. Our primary manufacturing facilities in India, and
yes,
they're light years ahead of other folks. I mean, they're again complete sustainable energy in the manufacturing. So combine that with the carbon sequestration during the plant growing, it gives us a great carbon footprint. And I see that as being able to be proliferated throughout all of Asia.
Yes, very true.
We see huge strides forward, right, in sustainable palm oils and other sustainable oleo products. So I think Asia is really cutting edge, and I think ALMU is helping the lubricant industry in this part of the world really lead the way. I'm so honored to be part of this webinar and part of this group.
Thank you very much, Mark. That is very much true, because as you said, the oleochemical industry, the base is in Asia. And as Steve mentioned, we need to have a collective effort and find out a common goal with all those people who can sponsor a kind of work where we can really bring the facts to the users to really act upon. And I think with your guidance and life cycle analysis, carbon footprint and all, we can come up with such an certain standard operating, some guidelines for the ALMU members to really see where they are. They may not really tell publicly, but they can really get the benefit of what is their carbon footprint and where they want to go. Yeah, Beth, your comments on, yes.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what Mark just said. I think that this industry, first of all, what this industry is intended to do can have a potentially huge impact on sustainability. The region, the geographic location for this particular organization, hugely important, and all of the things that ALMU is doing to provide the information to its members about how they can drive sustainability in their organizations in this region will be game-changing.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Gupta, I think we have reached somewhat the end of our
Questions,
webinar,
yes.
but maybe we can ask one more question and then ask you to wrap up after the question is answered.
Yeah, I think mostly, I think we have taken up all the questions, Vicky.
So can we ask you to summarize what are our takeaways, our key takeaways?
I would like to today thank all the three presenters. To begin with, Steve has really touched upon ALMU being a young organization of hardly 2 years. We have formulated a policy and we have taken sustainability as one of our major activities, because which is very relevant not only for Asia and also to take the cue from what's happening in the North America and European regions, what global companies are doing and how we should go about and how we should propagate this concept of sustainability not only among ALMU members but also users of our products, as mentioned in Beth's speech. In fact, most of the lubricant products touch upon each and almost I think each and every household, by the way, whether you direct or indirect usage of lubricants. So we should really actively, Steve mentioned, like to really have such kind of mammoth activity in terms of the scale and the complexity of Asia. We really need a kind of a structured research project which can be sponsored by the some of the lead members or any global or associations companies to really bring where we are and what we should do. Then coming to the second speaker, Marx, an excellent topic related to today's webinar, because he shared his 30 years experience of where we were and where we are today in terms of modifying the esters and taking all the aspects of normally what happens is when people talk about esters or biodegradable, people only look at one aspect of like biodegradability and all, and to bring the performance, the required characteristics of products like hydrolytic stability, response to EP additives, friction modification, and longevity of the product. And he touched upon one particular aspect that is very nice, because he says extending the life of lubricant is the key. Otherwise, what happens is sustainability cannot really sustain, because people think anything which is biodegradable or bio-friendly is expensive, but it is no longer today. The very fact that most of this oleo industry is in Asia, which means there is a lot of local potential. And the second part, what he touched upon is this bio-preferred lubricants, which I'm also looking at nowadays, and then environmentally accepted lubricants. The products need not be 100% biodegradable like renewable lubricants. There is a certain kind of guidelines where you can use 30% of the base stock can be from a renewable resource. So for the benefit of ALU members, these presentations will give an idea. If you want real guidance on how to formulate a product right from the point of base stocks and from the point of additives, one can really formulate a product. And what is biodegradability is, for many people, it is still a black box. And Mark has touched upon the subject. What is OECD guidelines, how you define. For example, if you really see, luckily, I mean, by chance, compared to the plastic industry where the product has to be biodegradable, almost like 6 month duration, most of the lubricants are biodegradable in 28 days, which are completely can be converted into carbon dioxide. So we have a lot of edge, and if you really focus, we can really bring most of these benefits, both economically as well as performance wise. And coming to Beth's presentation, it is indeed excellent. She simply said we are there 50, we touch upon 50% of the products in cosmetic and other product lines, and 50% of the entire transportation or lubricant industry. And in the last many decades, Lubrizol has been the forefront of many technologies, not only on the lubricant additives, but on in the life sciences. And in fact, I've used some of their water-based polymers. I mean, you know, the kind of guidelines they give, the kind of support system that is available for the customers to use, and what are the benefits. And even today, if you talk about, you know, whether it is Euro 6 emissions or in India we call it Bharat 6 emissions, it all talks about having a product which is not contributing to any additional emission, and also with extended life. So today when you talk about any product which is not contributing to carbon footprint, and it makes the machine availability much longer than what it was there 2 years, 3 years before, there itself we are minimizing the contribution to the carbon emissions, carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide, whatever variety of emissions, which itself is a key change, not only globally, in Asia. For example, in India, we have gone from Euro 4 to Bharat 4 to Bharat 6 emission in the sulfur standards right away. The government said, yes, we need to go, and there is nothing like there will be, and we introduced Bharat 6 much before than in many of the countries. Similarly, for example, AdBlue today, people are talking about minimizing the post-combustion emissions, converting nitrogen oxide to nitrogen. So many things are happening, and ultimately, the way we look at sustainability, it is economically viable, and also it is viable. For example, she talked about the cold water, no need to use hot water cleaning up in using detergents, and this is very true. And if you save energy and you are saving, so and conceptually, the way we go to the customers to make them understand what is sustainability for them and what is the key takeaway, I think ALMU, with the guidance of most of the information that is available from most of these global companies, and in a structured way, when we go and talk to the end customer, the key benefit of sustainability, I think we have done our part quite reasonably well in the coming years. Over to you, Vicky. I think this is my views, my summary of the presentations today. Vicky, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for an excellent summary. I would like to thank once again our speakers, Steve, Mark, and Beth, and Dr. Gupta for moderating this session. And on behalf of ALMU, my name is Vicky Denton, and we'd like to invite you to our future webinars and seminars that we plan to be holding in the near future. And definitely, we look forward to hopefully having all of you attend our annual meeting in Bangkok from March 8 to March 10, 2021. With that, I'd like to say goodbye to our Asian audience. Good evening. To our European audience, good afternoon. And to our American audience, good morning. Have a safe day, everyone. Take care.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Steve.